I would like to invite our next panel for the day, Marketing to Women by Women. This panel would be moderated by Chandani Shah, co-founder and COO of Kinnect, and the speakers joining her are Babita Baruah, Managing Partner GTB India, Debarpita Banerjee, President North and East FCB Ulka, and Head FuelContent India, Garima Khandelwal, Chief Creative Officer Mullen Lintas, Pallavi Chakraboarty, Executive Creative Director Taproot Dentsu, Sherina Kapany, Founder Sunstrategic, Tista, Regional Creative Director Wunderman Thompson South Asia, Vasudha Misra, Executive Creative Director BBH India. Over to you, ma'am.
Thanks so much, Preeti. So happy to be on this panel. Thanks so much, Adgully, for having us here. And I'm really excited to share, be on this panel with some of the strongest minds of the industry. Firstly, I want to start by saying congratulations. We're finally in 2021, and 2020 is behind us. One thing I saw in 2020, which stood out a lot, is that the woman's role in her family overall kind of really stood out in the last year. I think with everyone working from home, kids learning from home, and the entire family staying home, cooking at home, I think we all enjoyed it. But, there were lots of decisions that a woman was making, in the last year. So I'm going to quickly jump into the topic for today, which is extremely apt. It's about women's role in decision making and how marketers are approaching that, and how women marketers are approaching the women consumers. So, yeah, I'm going to start off asking my first question to Babita. Babita, with all your experience at GTB, how has the conversation around women as buyers, really changed? And does that reflect in the creative briefs that you're getting from your clients?
Hi, Chandni. Thank you for the question. Hi, everyone. A lot of known faces and a lot of memories here. Yes. So, before we talk about women as buyers, Chandni, just the conversation on women overall are undergoing change. Like, if you look at pop culture, if you look at the films around us, a lot of OTT panels, in fact, they call out films or content with women in lead roles, right? That we have stand-up comedians, we've got artists, women authors on the rise. So brands more often reflect what's happening in society. So to that extent, these conversations and women centricity is picking up. However, when it comes to actual work, to creative briefs, and more than briefs, the way you review the work and the way you set ROIs on the work, what are you expecting out of the work, differs from the relationship the brand has with the woman as a consumer, woman as an influencer, woman as a secondary influencer. Now, if the woman is a primary consumer, a lot of FMCG, beauty brands which are focused on women, the briefs or the strategy before the briefs are very strongly linked to business growth, right? Because a very strong narrative on women actually help sales, because you are inspired, you go out and you buy it, right? That's really a very simplified marketing journey. But when the category, and I work on one now, which is automobiles, and there are various such categories where women are influencers, but not necessarily the larger chunk of primary buyers, right? So in that case, there's always a question of how do we talk to women? And digitization helps us, because now you can go sharpshoot, you can talk specifically to women, you can have a lot of brand experiences around women, you can have a lot of activities which are designed for women on special days without really focusing primary assets around women. So my question, more than the creative brief, would be two. One, how much of appetite does the marketing team have to take on work which may not necessarily get you immediate sales, because the number of women, if you're not a primary consumer, would be very low in some categories. But if you want to be part of this narrative for the overall progress, the matrices of measuring the work has to change. It has to be measured on how much conversation did it create, did it provoke some change, did some women feel good about it, etc. And therefore, to me, yes, a good piece of work will be an output, hopefully, of a good creative brief. But it is really the role of the marketer to question himself or herself on what is my agenda when I'm working on this brand or business when it comes to women and what I want out of this piece of work. Because at the end of the day, Chandni, much as we like it, like I love to be a part of any work which is related to women, and we have done some on our business, but we will never do as much as some of the FMCG or women brand that I worked on earlier, and I understand why. So that's pretty much what I have as my first thoughts on this.
Sure. Awesome. Vasudha, what about you? Are you seeing, these kind of creative briefs come in at BBH for women, which are focused towards women?
Of course, but I just feel overall, when we talk about briefs with women specifically in mind, what happens is we put too much pressure on that brief to be empowering, to be liberating. That's the all that we can think about. But sometimes what we need to do is to keep it real. And I strongly believe the reality is far more progressive than our communication. Like, we don't have to make a big deal about women behind the wheels. Come on, that's not progress. So I just feel that we need to keep those briefs real, show the women in reality, because everything cannot be liberating and everything cannot be empowering, and because then we are just celebrating small acts and they become aberrations, and then I feel we are missing progress. Also, when we talk about women-centric brief, and I just want to digress, it's not just about bringing about change by addressing women-centric briefs, but bringing about change by correcting stereotypes that exist with briefs that are targeted to men. Truly, how do we bring about change? And how do we create better communication, a more gender equal communication, is to paint correct image of a man, the modern contemporary Indian man. And I feel both have to exist together, and we need to start seeing them in parallel and not in verticals, in different verticals. And I say this because, on one hand, I'm raising an 8-year-old boy. So what is he seeing in communication? How is he seeing Indian men? And as a woman, I want the right representation of,
For sure.
I don't want to make a big deal. I don't want to see big deal made about small things. And I want to keep it more real. So, yeah.
Got it. Tista, had you seen the conversation really changing around women as buyers in your experience at JWT? I think you're, Tista, I think you're on mute.
Hi, Chani. Hi. Oh God, so I was thinking, I got just lost in Vasudha's, answer and what Babita said. So I was thinking of the first part of it. I don't know whether this is the right answer, but I am highly suspect of brands that want to empower women, because who the hell are you, and who are you? I mean, who are you to give me permission to feel empowered? And I'm genuinely not just skeptical. I think it's scary, because there's a very fine line of being insightful and connecting with women, and there's a huge other side of the spectrum, which is really talking down to them and patronizing them. And any brief, and of course we're talking to women, you should only be talking to women, according to me, mostly. They're the ones who are the decision makers. But if you're going to be doing briefs which are now we have to empower them, I'd rather tear it up and throw it away, or delete it if it's on my email, because no, I have no right to empower you. I mean, who am I? I'm like a brand. Chill. You're on my shelf. You're in my house. But to add that kind of responsibility, get real. That's not the real world, and that's not genuine. That totally doesn't work for me.
Sure. Sherina, my next question is for you. With the financial status of women increasing, we see them enters into categories like auto and BFSI, which were traditionally dominated by men. Do you see less gender segmentation in these categories, or there's a separate communication approach for them? I mean, I think Strategic has a lot of BFSI clients.
Yes.
So, in your experience, how has it been?
Thanks for the question, but I just want to, hop back to what Vasudha and Tista was saying. And at Sunstrategic, we have stopped taking empathy-driven briefs because really there is, no point in empathizing with a gender just because we want women to feel empowered. In my agency, all the management is all women, and these are women who've never had careers before joining my agency. So we've trained them, we've gotten them up here, and I don't feel that I need to empower them. I just felt that I was at the right place to kind of give a little bit of push. But these women are self-empowered, so if I'm looking at these women as my target audience, which mostly you have even for your FMCG and you have for your BFSI in terms of the small loans, etc. Most of the content that we churn out is more content to educate the audiences. Now, whether that is a man or a woman, it doesn't really matter, because the traffic that's coming to read this content and consume the content is from all over India, all over the world. But also my clients at this point have stopped sending us briefs about let's kind of show that let's do something to empower the girl child, or let's do something to empower women so that they can have a dual role, one that they kind of perform at home and one they perform in the office. I know a lot of women in that target audience who perform single roles, and they don't perform the home role, or they don't go out and work, and they're still having help at home, and they're still kind of automating things in their own little way. So I don't see that the need to necessarily empower women at in today's day and age, especially when COVID is struck and we're all working from home. So I see a lot of progress on that. And also coming back to your point about BFSI and auto, as an agency owner, to get clients within these particular industries, it was not very difficult. And I don't see these industries kind of looking at giving work to an agency that's run by a woman and segregating it in terms of should we give it to a bigger conglomerate or should we give it to a woman run agency. Now, in terms of the target audience, recently, we did something, a huge digital PR campaign for an auto company. And yes, a lot of the content was targeted more towards the men, but a lot of the content is targeted to the women, because women, frankly speaking, have the buying power today. So we're not, saying, okay, now you're being empowered and, we're giving you, or the automotive industry is giving you certain added benefits because you're a woman. We're just saying that, you're an intelligent human being. So here, are your options of utilizing this financial tool or utilizing that automotive to to your own advantage. So I don't see the segregation as much today as I would have seen it maybe about 4 years ago, which is when we actually broke into the automotive industry. So
Sure. Babita, in your experience, has that evolved? Because you've been in the automobile industry for really long. So maybe now it could be a little different, but in the past, was it more,
Yeah, it's changing. But I'll just pick up on the conversation earlier and then lead into this.
Sure.
I see empowerment as being different from inspiration. And I feel that as women, all of us need inspiration. We are a very evolved group of women here. We are self-inspired to a great extent. But even then, I personally seek inspiration from movies. When I read a good book, when I see somebody doing something, when I see an influencer talking about her journey or his journey or whatever. And time and again, we talk about communication being about storytelling. And how is this storytelling, in my view, different from any other storytelling around us that can be an inspiration to maybe even one woman's life? Just seeing somebody talking confidently, seeing somebody take a step against. That's what stories do, right? They play on our subconscious and they leave an impression. So overall, I believe a lot in the power of inspiration when it just comes to imagery, when it comes to conversations, and its impact on a lot of women for whom the only window to inspiration is a small screen, which is content, which is ads, and more content, right? Now, to that extent, I admittedly, and Sherina, I totally agree with you that there is really no difference between this is a brief or a communication for women. It doesn't work that way. But what has changed, and again, that's what Sherina mentioned, that we do see a lot of work which is around brand experiences, right? Which are around. So, for example, one of the pieces of work which we came up with was on just showing, the capability of driving itself is very, it's independence, right? Because you don't have to depend on anybody in the family when you want to go out, you want to set up a business. So in that sense, it is liberating for you because it's your own set of wheels, right? So there was a story which was set in the context of culture of a changing mother-daughter dynamics, right? There are a lot of activations and brand experiences which are done on just drives. And for the business that I am in, it is not about learning to drive, but it's about driving smart, because learning to the target we talk to are not about learning to drive, but really about, if I were on a racing circuit, am I the smartest driver? Do I know what it is to drive, to get the thrill of driving, right? And we've had huge response on this. So whether it is this category or any other, I will always try to find some way in my capacity, because there are a lot of other stakeholders, to get even a small piece of inspiration which can inspire the life of even one woman in this country.
Yeah, that's really nice. Vasudha, you've been managing Tinder, I think, for a really long time. And there's a I just wanted to know, from a communication standpoint, is there like a separate communication strategy that is done for men and women, or is it you know
I think while Tinder talks to both genders, it cannot exist without both genders. We try and be more conscious of the women consumer. But see, for dating apps, it's easier to break in and talk to women specifically, or talk to both genders, or to keep women in mind, but have them influence the other gender, or balance the other gender. But if I have to talk about the male dominated categories, whether it's automotive, finance, alcohol, whatever, I do not feel there is equal or enough representation of women out there. And look, we don't need data. We don't need data to know. We occupy enough space on this planet to know that 90% of the products out there can be used by both men and women. So even if this brief is not targeted to a woman, when we are writing the script, and if the script is gender neutral, just put a woman behind the wheels, or just make a woman do the financial, make the financial decision. She doesn't have to be a widower. She doesn't have to be a single mom. She can be in a nuclear or a bigger family to make these decisions. And it doesn't have to be like oh my God, look, let's slow clap or underline it. Because I think in advertising, we tend to make a big deal about or exaggerate those little moments. And I feel we are at this right time to kind of neutralize it and paint a more authentic picture. And the same we do with Tinder. We are not making it, oh my God, look, such a big deal that, a girl is making her dating choices. It is what exists. And we are representing it like that. And of course, we are writing a story. We are adding, entertainment to it. But that's our craft. Yeah.
Fully agree. Yeah, I also feel the exact same way.
Like, as women, we don't need special treatment. We need equal treatment.
Yeah, fully agree.
And that should extend across all categories. Like, that's what I think everyone wants.
Yeah. Pallavi, have you seen, in any of the creative briefs that you've got, any, briefs that are focused towards, I want a campaign for, I don't know, for women specifically? Have you had that kind of an experience come from any of your clients? which is not dominated by that sector, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah, I might be making a bit of an explosive statement here, but I think today what's happening is that there's a two-way street. Brands are conscious of being seen as, they want to be seen as doing what is right, but they also want to do what is right for them business-wise. Okay, so I think that's the tightrope everybody is walking, and we as people in the industry are walking it with them, because that's what we're hearing day in and day out. So I have had experience in financial services and in fact on automobile. I was reading up today because I was thinking about the discussion and the questions that we were also stewing on. And I think on ground maybe a lot of stuff has changed with at least the automotive industry, for instance. Now you'll see what I mean when I say they want to be seen as doing the right thing. There is a Seat all-woman store. Now all women stores to sell tires. Traditionally, what do women know about selling tires, right? So today on ground, you have stores like this. Then Hector just made their, the 50,000 car was made by start to finish, turnkey project done only by women.
Yeah.
But this is the kind of thing that will get you PR. The 10 people here on this Zoom call will talk about it. Yeah. Will it actually trickle down to a woman being empowered in real life? I don't think so. So I do think it's fair to say that empowerment currently is a boardroom/metro dream. And I think a lot of clients understand that. They want to do something. Okay, nobody wants to be guilty of taking the first step. But have we reached a level where honestly people are, I think what Vasudha said is so correct, real is more progressive than progressive. Than the dictionary meaning of progressive. So I think that's very important for us in financial services. If you were to go in, exactly what she was saying, go in with a regular, like, can it be the woman who's thinking about mutual fund? And if you were to suggest it, you will get an apologetic response from your client saying, I'd love to do this, but but we can do a special project around women in mutual fund. So we are currently special projects.
Got it. So, Debbie, I wanted to ask you my next question. Post-pandemic, FMCG brands are adopting a progressive approach to marketing towards women. Do you think this will remain? Will they remain the primary buyers in the categories, or this particular progressive behavior, will that continue, or just fade away?
FMCG has kind of always kept the woman, in their good books. I don't know whether post-pandemic FMCG is very, very carefully looking at women, because that they have been looking at women pretty carefully. I have noticed one trend though. It's like, there's a little bit more of fear. Now, I think they've understood probably the power of women is a little bit more when it comes to these kind of purchases, or the fact that, she's buying a lot more, people are at home, the consumption has gone up. I have noticed this. There was always a fear, because there's the narratives that have been built in from boardrooms, which have been primarily represented by marketing men, has been, let's not alienate women. I mean, you're doing popcorn advertising. Why will it alienate women or alienate mothers? I mean, I've heard this so many times that they are a little bit scared about women because they don't know what to do, yet they know they have the power. I think that fear post-pandemic has gone up a little bit more, because now it's become a little bit confused. So let's say if there is a food brand where now they are saying, oh, because now the father is also staying at home, he's also helping out in the kitchen. And that has been the case. Men have shown up to the party. Some men are still trying. Some men have reached there. It has been a little bit confusing for marketeers now to say, should we open it up? Should we, broaden the category and speak to all? But then will we alienate the women? So this conversation has kind of gone up a little bit more. But otherwise, FMCGs have always been like, पहले माँ से बात करते हैं या पहले औरत से बात करते हैं, as if.
So, Kainaz, do you at Ogilvy, are you also seeing, there are lots of FMCG brands out there. So, is this a similar, behavior, or are you, experiencing anything else?
Sorry, I was on mute. No, so I agree with a lot of things that were said over here. Having said that, I do believe that we have to give our clients some points for intention. Because I work on a lot of FMCG brands, and you're right, they sometimes falter, sometimes they over-index on certain things. But I've often seen that at least brands are showing intention to do something which is not regressive. So let's say we are there right now. I don't think I completely agree that this entire thing about being progressive is sometimes a bit too forced and unnecessary. And it doesn't really happen like that in real life. But I believe that even FMCG brands are clearly showing intention. There could be many reasons for that intention. I'm not doubting that. It could be public backlash. It could be the amount of social media pressure that is there nowadays. Because if you do something regressive, you're going to be ripped apart on social media within hours.
Yeah.
But the fact that they want to do something is certainly there. They are scared, so it's baby steps. It's completely baby steps right now. But I've been in advertising for close to 20 years, and from where we were to where we are, it's really different. So I'll just give you I just want to give you an example. Like in yoga, I recently discovered yoga. And yoga, there's a lot of emphasis given on awareness. Be aware of your breath. Be aware of your body. Be aware of the pain you feel. I think and they don't ask you to do anything about it, because awareness makes a lot of difference. I think we have reached there in terms of advertising right now. At least brands are acknowledging that they need to be aware of how they are communicating. They can't be completely, idiotic like they were with a girl standing in a bikini next to a car. You can't be there. I don't think we have solved everything. I don't think they have a single piece in Indian advertising which is as empowering as the film Mirch Masala, which when I saw it as a young teenage girl, and I felt so, that is what was really empowering for me, That to me is a piece of communication that can make a woman feel, yes, I can do anything I want. Not necessarily driving or having an all-woman tire store like Pallavi said.
Sure. Garima, any campaigns that you want to talk about which have had this progressive approach towards women marketing in your experience?
Yeah, hi. So, obviously hearing everybody speak, and I just thought that we can thank the pandemic for making it look progressive, that men can use household items. And in fact, for a recent launch of a vegetable cleaner, we put the ad, using it while the TG was still the woman. But I think that shift is possible only when you know what kind of segments that you're talking to. And it's okay, you may not be alienating the woman by not showing her, as long as you're really speaking to her about her day-to-day reality. And I think that shift has happened, and it's here to stay, is what I think.
Yeah, for sure. Pallavi, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, just after hearing what everyone had to say, I want to say that on this, I'd like to comment on the change of brief that we have seen. There are certain conversations that are changing. We've all grown up on the staple diet of this is Neetu. She wants her children to have strong bones and teeth.
Yeah.
Today, we may have come to a point where once in a while you'll hear about Neetu wanting to have strong bones herself. Or, somebody else who wants their husband to wear clean clothes to work, and have the whitest white. And today it is about you are worth things as well. So in terms of FMCG, I think it's already been stated. We have permanently, aggressively, progressively, whatever it may be, talked to women on FMCG. I don't think that's about to change. They're very much going to remain front and center, my view, remaining pivotal to this category. What may change, I think Debarpita spoke about it. Also, I think in consumer durables, I'm seeing a difference because exactly like Garima said, all thanks to the pandemic. Men have discovered that yes, when Bai is not around, dryer becomes important, dishwasher becomes important. So in durables, I'm seeing clients turn around and say there is more of a joint decision and there's more of an interest being taken because damn right, not having a dryer or a dishwasher in the house has cost men dearly. So today, I think in that category, it is becoming, I don't know if it's temporary or a lasting change. I don't know if it's as long as the pandemic will last, but that's a sector where I'm seeing a slight division of interest as far as marketers go.
I agree with Pallavi on that. I think it's an interesting point that she has spoken about. I feel the pandemic has been the greatest accelerator of change. Men and women were stuck at home and they were making these decisions and they were being more involved in choices. And I think that has given us access to talk to men in certain categories which were women dominated. Again, 1 year, I don't think so this would have happened if there wasn't this phase that we were stuck at home and sitting on online sites and ordering stuff and making these decisions ourselves. This wouldn't have happened, and I think it's an important time where we can address and talk to men in certain categories that have been just focusing on women.
Yeah. I've heard from a lot of e-commerce clients also that, a lot of the decisions, I mean, it's eventually the man who's kind of buying it off the particular marketplace, but it's the women who's influencing the decision. And specifically in these categories, yeah, there's been a significant shift from that standpoint.
I'm going to jump in here because it's actually made me think, which is, is it the pandemic and the lockdown that's brought it up, or is it that for once we've been forced to really think about how people actually live at home? There's been this whole, I mean, it's like table stakes that, women are working from home, husbands are going to work, and what happens behind closed doors. So, of course, there's been, as Pallavi put it so eloquently, a bi problem. But the truth is, did men not help before? And is it only the pandemic, or is it that marketers have been forced to confront the truth, which means deep diving? And I always feel that always helps so much when you're not just insightful, but when you're really being, as everybody's been saying, authentic and real. It just brought it to the fore. I'm not sure whether it's just a broad stroke of, oh, thanks to the lockdown, now men are, involved. Maybe they were. Maybe we just didn't bother about it earlier because they were not because it wasn't, like right up there. And perhaps if before the pandemic, a brand actually decided that, hey, let's get the men more involved, maybe it would have a completely different result. It just, what irks me is it takes this, of course, the pandemic and the lockdown to bring things to the surface. But maybe if we had, been, I don't mean, brave and really progressive and really saying, let's change the narrative. Why couldn't we have this conversation before? Would it be so alienating, or would we actually have women then say, yeah, great, that's what I'd like to see as well? And it's something just worth thinking about. I mean, I haven't, it's always been pre-pandemic and now pandemic communication, but a lot of it might just be, self-inflicted by, well, marketers and us, and perpetuated by us, and now it's all, well, coming to the fore. And I'm just wondering whether it's only the pandemic that's responsible, or whether it's our blinkers that said, let's not go beyond this right now because they're not ready. We all ready, actually. Everybody's been more than ready to embrace something new. And that's something just worth considering.
No, I just feel, Tista, like if I can just, Robbie jump in it, that we are just so used to generalizing and stereotyping, right? Like that's how you actually grab attention and, speak to the masses. And I think maybe pandemic brought everybody at that thing that everyone could relate to it. I mean, I think earlier than that, it probably would have been niche, or something different. But now it just became something that easily was talking to everybody because everyone's reality was reflected in that. I think that probably steered it,
But it's a very interesting thought. I don't know whether it was us or whether it was the pandemic. It's just...
No, maybe it was always happening, but just the fact that you could make the point by not feeling that you're making a point, to be different, but actually to talk to everybody, probably made the change.
I do believe that the pandemic has had it was a bit of a catalyst. So it'll be very wrong on the other gender to say that they were not helping. But I guess there's a bit of a distance between help and ownership. And, the whole, looking at, let's say, domestic partnership came with a sense of ownership maybe after this journey, and maybe their empathy with FMCGs and what shampoo to buy and what detergent to buy became a little bit more because they were dealing with it day in and day out. They might have been given the task in a month or two to maybe order the list or go fetch the list. So I guess the interaction with these products and these categories became a lot more from a responsibility point of view rather than, oh, you want me to help you out and I'll help you out. So maybe that's why their association with it went more, and marketeers are also, lots of marketeers are men. They must have felt it themselves, and hence like stretching the category and making them also part of the conversation.
I want to chime in.
Women, or not you guys maybe, but like women consumers, do you think that they, they would consider buying from categories that don't speak to women? Is, what are your thoughts?
Right. I mean, if you have the buying power, like real estate speaks to primarily men then family because women are the influencers. I mean, I had to buy a house. So you have to go out there and buy stuff because now you can buy whether the category speaks to you or not. So yes, I guess you end up being a consumer whether, advertising is really helping you or not in that because of necessity or because of desire. So
yeah,
sometimes you end up. Sorry,
I think it's even brought up over here. Categories, I think, are comfortable sometimes not speaking to women and counting on the fact that women will buy in anyway, because I think it was Vasudha who said it, like, we're not going to not go out and buy a car because they show a man behind the wheels.
yeah.
It's not going to happen. So I think it stands to reason that, I mean, the question is, what does one want to do? Kainaz spoke of intent. What is important? It is not like people are not going to, I'm not going to go out and not buy a whiskey because, hey, men drink whiskey, So, and I know there's a set of us, we're the privileged few on this call, but I think that holds true for anybody. Even if you see a man in communication, I don't think people will decode it as, I will not do this because it is talking only to a man.
Not do this, but
yeah. Sorry, but the same holds true actually if you think about it. If there's a 25-year-old really good-looking guy driving a BMW, I'm sure a balding 50-year-old man is not thinking that car is not for me. If you think about it, advertising is not really, it's just making you feel like you want it and, relate to it, not by always showing you using it. I think that probably is, also something that, because again, it has to be massy, it has to be talking, talk to some like people at a larger scale as opposed to, of course, different from what Babita was talking about in the beginning, that which is specific, targeted advertising. But if you just look at it on a broader scale, it just have to relate to the emotion of, like Pallavi saying, there is no whiskey brand actually that is using women endorsing it, but women are drinking whiskey. So
yeah.
Yeah. We also shop for, say, your spouse or the male member of the house. So, for example, say shaving products, right? Now, they will not talk to me. I don't even use it. But when you go out to shop, you buy for the whole family. And there are a lot of families, especially in tier 2, tier 3 towns, where it's a monthly shopping still. It's not online shopping, and it all goes as part of the shopping list. Sometimes the man doesn't even bother, she just picks up whatever is the best deal and buys that. So there's some of that as well, where the category doesn't talk. I don't even buy it for myself, but I'm always buying it every month for the person who uses it, who happens to be a man.
Sure.
Okay. I just have a point there. I think, what's happening is that we are just looking at the gender and obsessing about the gender and not focusing on the individual behind the gender. And if we start focusing on the individual behind the gender, what life stage, emotional stage, financial stage that person is, I think we would have more relatable work, because then it cuts through gender and it becomes, more neutral. We are operating in parallels and progressing in these parallels, like, maybe 40, 50 years or maybe more down the line, there was communication which was saying, okay, women stay in the kitchen and men stay outside the kitchen. And then someone said, no, that's not progressive. Let's show women go to work and then come back and cook. And then someone said, no, that's not progressive. And then, take it forward. But in order to go, I feel in order to go one step ahead, we're taking 2 steps back. And maybe this is just my opinion. But I feel maybe we should step out of these verticals, be more, create more, talk to individuals,
Sure.
That's a great. Actually, and also reflecting back into the advertisers, right? I mean, I think we tend to put segments into, okay, women should work on beauty brands and, so on. But I think that gender agnosticness that needs to come in, that you're really into individuals and life stage. Absolutely. I think that's really a big point for us to really go on with. Yeah.
But, I think we are undoing the damage that was created many moons back. What was it? A few men that sat around a table and decided what beauty should be for women and just transferred their fantasies there. And now we are just dealing with those insecurities and trying to undo it. Yeah. So, I think this is the time to assess, are we creating something more that needs to be undone down the line? Or can we start talking not in genders, but as individuals? and at different life stages. Perhaps.
That's true. Okay, guys, my last 5 minutes before the panel ends, and my last question also. Kainaz, what has been your most audacious pitch to a client targeting women in this new context?
Yes. So my most audacious piece of work, and luckily it was for an NGO and not a brand, because a brand would have never approved it. In 2016, we did a campaign to end acid sale, where we used an actual acid attack victim to give beauty tips. So we made a channel for her, and she gave beauty tips on that channel. And one of the tips was to ban the sale of acid if you really want to protect women. And I think that it would have been almost impossible to sell it had a big corporate got to put money behind it. But the fact that I was talking to a small NGO, and she absolutely loved the idea. We got the girl, to do the campaign, and she went on to walk the New York Fashion Week the next year. So I think that was my most audacious piece of work, and I think it will also be one of my most special pieces of work, because I feel that and honestly, it's like that NGO received whatever donations and targets that they wanted, but that girl, her name is Reshma Qureshi, it changed her life. Like today, she's
Wow.
a sound engineer. She's studying that. She was doing absolutely nothing. She was 18 years old when there was acid thrown on her face. And I don't know how many people were affected, but Reshma Qureshi's life changed after that campaign. And so it will be not only the most audacious, but one of the most special things I've ever done.
Nice. Tista, what has been your most audacious pitch?
Unsuccessful to begin with, and I think I echo Kainaz. It takes a certain kind of braveness and a boldness to embrace work which is audacious. That's a huge word, and that doesn't sit lightly on I think any creative person's shoulders. Because we've spoken about empowering and we've spoken about inspirational, but being audacious is really like a huge call. So, and I'm not talking about audaciousness is yet to come where as far as I'm concerned. I mean, there's work in bits and bobs and dribs and drag, and it's a huge struggle to get that kind of work out. But to really label audaciousness on it would be very audacious of me actually to say this. But 100 years ago, well, not 100 years ago, many years ago, when I was just starting off, I remember I did a campaign for a skin brand I worked on as a junior writer, maybe because my grandmom has such lovely soft skin, and I thought I was so clever because I did a campaign with grannies endorsing something which we were selling to 20-year-olds, and only I was excited, of course. And but my I'm remembering that period, and I kept thinking that I've stumbled on something fantastic 20 years ago, and they will all well, kiss my toes and celebrate my brilliance. And they allowed me to take it up to a client because I'd spent a lot of time and work on it, and hours over like craft. And then they looked at me and they said, we talk to 20-year-olds, and you're suddenly saying the brand should start talking to old people. And I had my rationale at that time. I was probably in my 20s, all thought through. And I kept thinking in my mind then, you're being moronic. I mean, I'm trying to give you like a breakthrough. But it's lessons learned, I think, about ageism, about, what being audacious really is. And I think if brands have to be really audacious, they need to embrace it themselves. The conversation has to start, when they are briefing creative or their agency and discussing the work, because it takes, it takes two, definitely not just two to tango. It takes 25 now to tango together, and it needs to be approached, on either side. So yes, attempted, failed miserably, and I hope it, and I definitely feel it's yet to come. I mean, there is interesting work, but audacious, no, not as yet.
Sure. Pallavi, do you want to talk about any of the most audacious campaign that you've pitched to a woman consumer?
I have to go with Tista saying I'm hoping audacious is still to come, but I want to talk here about the opposite of audacious. I think at every pre-production meeting, if I can manage to sell a cast member who is not conventionally beautiful and who is not gory and chitty. I think for me that's a win. Any on any
Now, you're seeing brands are open to that.
No, but that's my point. When brands do that, it is because they are making a statement. If you do a film only with dusky women, it is because you want to make a point. Hey, here, we're doing a film with dusky women. I'm talking about normalization. I'm talking about when you're doing a 20-second promo, jisme somebody is making roti. In that, are you okay to show a lady who is not pretty?
Sure.
Yeah, if we can do that, if she's a fine actor, if she's a performer, if she can realize the director's dream, my dream, I'd say even that's a win. But as far as audacious campaigns go, I'm hoping someday, yes.
Sure. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Adgully, and all you awesome panelists for making this so insightful, so interesting, and jumping in whenever you all had interesting points. I have taken a lot back. I hope the rest of the audience also has. So, yes, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.